Hey geometry students, I'm glad you've tuned in to watch this video which will be going over the review work for the Transformations Learning Target. So I'm going to get started right away doing rotation of this image, this triangle, 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. Since we're rotating about the origin, I put a dot at the origin and an arrow going straight up so I know how far I've gone when I rotate the image. And then I'm going to trace the image and I'm going to make sure those points are nice and clear, and I'm going to label them because when I label my new image I want to make sure that that goes in the right place. Since we're going clockwise, it's going in the direction that the clock moves, which is this direction, and 90 degrees is going to be right there. So I can see that G prime, E prime, P prime will go in those spots. This is G prime, E prime, and P prime. And then I can connect that. It should line up right on top of the previous image. So that is number one. Number two is a rotation of 180 degrees about the origin. All of these are rotations about the origin, so in my rotations I'm going to put a dot at the origin. That is where the X and the Y axis cross, and the arrow going up so that I know how far I've gone. And I have B, V, and L. 180 degrees, it doesn't say if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. That's because 180 degrees clockwise ends up in the same rotation as 180 degrees counterclockwise. So B prime, V prime, L prime. So B prime, L prime, V prime, and I'm going to put in the sides of that triangle. I can just double check my work. 180 degrees, doesn't say which direction. I'll go counterclockwise this time, and it lines up right where it ought to. Hopefully you've practiced all these problems. You aren't just watching the video, because practice will definitely help to make sure you have it down. Rotation of 180 degrees about the origin. Now this is kind of an unusual shape because the shape is actually, part of it is on the origin, which is our rotation, our point of rotation. And that's unusual. We haven't seen that yet. So I'm going to label my sides. 180 degrees, this time I'm going to start out going clockwise. 180 degrees there. Oh, and look what happens. That point that was on the point of rotation doesn't move. It stays right in the same spot. So we have I prime and W prime, S prime, and D prime. It is important that you label those points with the prime notation because we don't want to have two points with the same name. So I'm just going to double check this. So I'm starting out right there. I'm going to go 180 degrees. This time I'll go counterclockwise, and it does match up. Looks good. So that's number three. Number four is a rotation of 90 degrees counterclockwise, the direction that the clock does not move. So here are my points, F, W, G. Put my point at the center of rotation, counterclockwise, 90 degrees. This way is counterclockwise. 90 degrees is right there, so there's where my points will end up. This is W prime, F prime, G prime. And after I do my shape, after I put it in there, it's a good idea to double check and see how I did, make sure that it lines up where it's supposed to, and it does. Alright, now we're going to look at problem number 5. We're on to translations. So I'm going to translate each point 6 units to the right and 3 units down. So I start with L. I can start with any point, I just chose L. So I'm going to go 6 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 units down, 1, 2, 3. And right there is where I'm going to put L prime. T goes 6 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 units down, 1, 2, 3. That is T prime. And P, 6 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 units down, 1, 2, 3. And P prime ends up right there, connecting those points. That's what I end up with. Notice that the shape is identical to that shape, it's just been moved over. On to number 6. Translation, 2 units left. So for each of these points, I just go to the left 2 units. So for D, I go 1, 2. And there is D prime. For X, 1, 2. Oh, it lands right on top of where D was. H goes 2 units to the left to H prime. And G, 2 units to the left for G prime. And these lines, I didn't do a great job with them. I wouldn't mark you down for that. So that is number 6. Number 7, translation, 2 units to the right, 8 units up. So 2 units to the right for E, 1, 2, 8 units up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is E prime. 2 units to the right for P, 1, 2, 8 units up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is P prime. H, 2 units to the right, 8 units up. Right there. H prime. And T, 2 units to the right, 8 units up. T prime right there. Notice that T prime is 1 unit to the right of H prime. T was 1 unit to the right of H. E is 2 units to the right of T and 2 units up, 2 units to the right and 2 units up. So the shape is completely maintained. That's important to note. Okay. Number 8. Translation, 1 unit to the right and 5 units down. 1 unit to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. Z, and that's C prime. Z, 1 unit to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. That's Z prime. P, 1 unit to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. That's P prime. And there is my new transformed triangle. Alright, so let's look at the reflections now. We're going to start off with a reflection of across the line y equals x. So I want to draw that line y equals x in first, and I need to think back to algebra and remember that what it means is that for any value that I plug in for x, the y value will be the same. So for instance, 0 plugged in for x, well then y must be 0. So the point 0, 0 must be on the line. If I plug 5 in for x, then to make this true, y must be 5. So the point where x equals 5 and y equals 5, that point has to be on the line as well. And I'm going to put one more point on the line. When x is negative 5, then y must also be negative 5. So this point right down here, negative 5 is on the line. So I'm going to connect those 3 points. You actually only need 2 points to draw any straight line, but I'm going to connect those 3 points with a dotted line. That is my line of reflection, y equals x. Alright, now for the reflection of that triangle. Because our line of reflection is on the diagonal here, we are also going to reflect across the diagonals. And what I mean by that is that we want to count the shortest distance to the line from our point. So here's our line of reflection. From this point I, we count on the diagonals 1.5 diagonal units. So we go 1.5 diagonal units on the other side of that line of reflection, and there is I prime. For P, it's 2.5 diagonal units. So we go 2.5 diagonal units away from the line of reflection on the other side, and that is P prime. For C, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 diagonal units. So we continue on, 1, 2, 3, 4 diagonal units, and that is C prime. And then we can connect our points, and that is our shape reflected across the line y equals x. For number 10, we're reflecting across the line y equals negative x. Well, for the same kind of reason as I explained with the line y equals x, our line y equals negative x goes like this. 0, 0. If I plug 0 in for x, well, negative 0 is the same as 0, so y has to be 0, so this point 0, 0 has to be on there. If I plug 5 in for x, this is negative 5, so y has to equal negative 5, so the point 5, negative 5 right down here has to be on the line. And similarly, negative 5, 5 has to be on the line. So that is my line of reflection, and I should have made it a dotted line, so I'm going to do that with the eraser. Don't usually make solid lines for lines of reflection. So again, our line of reflection is on the diagonal, so we're going to count on the diagonal from the point to the line of reflection. That's 1/2 of a unit, so I go 1/2 of a unit on the other side, and that is x prime. T is 1 unit away, so T prime, diagonal unit away, so T prime is 1 diagonal unit away. D is 1, 2, 3 diagonal units away from the line of reflection, so continuing on, 1, 2, 3 diagonal units away from the line of reflection is D prime, and V is 1, 2.5, so there's our 1/2, and 1 and 2. This is V prime, and there is our reflected shape. Number 11, we have reflecting across the x-axis. Here is the x-axis. So that's the line we're counting to when we do our reflection. So we count 1, 2 units. So we go up 1, 2, and there is L prime. 1, 2, 3 units. So continuing on, 1, 2, 3 units. That is E prime. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So we continue on, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is S prime. And we connect those points, and that is our shape reflected across the x-axis. The last one here is a reflection of this shape across the y-axis. Here is the y-axis, so that's the line that we're reflecting across. So 1 unit away from that line, 1 unit away is V prime. F is 1, 2, 3, 4 units away, so 1, 2, 3, 4 units away is F prime, and I is 1, 2, 3 units to the line of reflection, so 1, 2, 3 units to the reflected point. And there is our shape reflected across the line, the y-axis. All right, tune into the other videos to get some more practice.